Next season's Arsenal could look so different, you know. Had this moment of realisation was outside the Emirates with Turkish and Robbie. We were talking about Jurrien Timber, Thomas Partey, whether they can be available for this Bournemouth game. And I thought to myself, these are two really important players that Arteta's not been able to use all season. We've not had the injury crisis of a Liverpool. We've not lost a De Bruyne for 4 months. We've not had, the injuries Tottenham had for one point in the season, Brighton, Newcastle. So I'm not going to sit here and cry about our injuries. But I do think it's fair to say, as a blanket statement, that Arteta hasn't been able to field his best 11 with the current group of Arsenal players he's got once. He's not been able to field that once. And that's kind of crazy, isn't it, when you really think about it? So when you imagine next season's Arsenal with Timber and Partey largely available and potentially 3-4 signings coming in, and look at the way we've tactically evolved this season, which I want to explore in this video today, you actually start to realise that next season's Arsenal could look so different from this season. And we've only maybe got 3 more games of this version of Mikel Arteta's Arsenal team. So I want to talk about the injuries, I want to talk about the evolution of the set, I want to talk about how these new signings might make a real difference to Arsenal going forward, especially when you look at the profiles of players that we've actually been linked with. I'm going to start by talking about Jurrien Timber and Thomas Partey's injury records, because you can see that they've both missed a lot of football. Timber significantly more than Thomas Partey. In fact, I didn't even realise Thomas Partey had been quite that available, a little bit like the Jesus video the other day. I thought 13 games Partey, I could have sworn it's only been 5. But of course he's had some substitute appearances and we haven't had a fully fit, available, ready to go Thomas Partey for basically all of this season. And that's a big miss. Timber and Partey are 2 of Arteta's most press resistant players. They are clearly going to be very important to build up, or would have been had they been available. And we've had to play around with the system, tweak it slightly to ensure that we keep getting results without 2 players that perhaps would have been really crucial to it. So I want to look at what Arsenal would have looked like this season, because let's take it to the tactical pad. I think going into this season, we all thought that this was going to be Arteta's 11, essentially, the way he wanted to play, with Kai Havertz sort of bombing up and down, doing what Granit Xhaka does, Zinchenko inverting, and that being the back 3. Now, to be fair, we have seen it look slightly different because Jesus had injury problems. So you've had Ødegaard drop in and build up a little bit more because Granit Xhaka would support in build up, and Havertz has played more as a sort of, not a false 9, a second striker, let's call it, people use the word Raumdeuter, which I don't think applied to a central midfielder, but that might be true as well. And that's kind of how Arsenal were looking at the beginning of this season, but it's evolved interestingly because Arsenal have done a couple of things. Jesus hasn't been fit, so Havertz has been leading the line. Jorginho has come into the team, and we've been playing with more of a 4-4-2 build-up like this. We've talked about this several times on this channel. And it's looked something more like this, to be fair. And I don't know if Arteta always intended it to move this way. I think with the absence of Zinchenko at times, so Kivior's played at left back, there's been a kind of want to tweak the system. Ben White's inverted at times, but really we've looked a little bit more like this, and Kai Havertz has really stepped up as a really good forward. But what's interesting is that Ben White's role in all this has changed quite significantly, because last season, if we just get a ball on the pitch, we give the ball to Jorginho. I think last season the way Arsenal would have used an overlapping fullback like Ben White is for the ball to go out to Saka really wide. Ben White would make the overlapping run, and then Saka would find that ball on the overlap for Ben White to give a different dimension, a different lane of attack. But I think what we've seen this season actually is Arsenal be much more happy to play with maybe Declan Rice stepping forward, Jorginho and Ødegaard sort of dropping into build up a little bit more like this, and Saka tucking inside, so Ben White is actually hugging the touchline. If I show you his heat map from this season, he has been playing as much on that right of the attacking half as he has on the right of that defensive half, not just playing as an inverted fullback tucking into build up, but actually hugging that touchline. Like I said, not the ball coming out to Saka so then Ben White can just steam around him on the overlap, but actually holding that position so Saka can be a little bit more central. I think against Bayern Munich we've seen really good examples of where that build-up shape was there, so that Ben White was actually holding the Bayern Munich wingers quite pinned into their half so that they wouldn't get so high up the pitch and be a transitional threat. And the use of Ben White's been quite interesting from that perspective. Now, if Arsenal are to move towards having fullbacks that get high and wide and hug the touchline and can overlap a little bit, then the links to this player, Ait-Nouri, get very interesting, because as you can see, apparently Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal are all interested in the Wolves left back, who's one of the most exciting and adventurous fullbacks in the Premier League. He gets forward, he gets goals, he's a creative outlet, and he's got really good technical quality as well. So if we take out Zinchenko and we add new left-back signing here, it might not be Ait-Nouri, but set someone of that profile, suddenly this build-up shape that we've had from Arsenal Let's move it slightly like this. There we go. This might be a lot more of what we see next season. It might be a shift from the inverted system that we've been seeing, and actually, well, that we saw a lot of last season. We've seen it quite a bit this season, but we might actually start to get fullbacks that bomb up and down the pitch a little bit more. And I'm really interested if we go for a night Nori, whether that'll be the case. Does Kieran Tierney even still have a chance to be that guy for Mikel Arteta? We will see. And this is where Jurrien Timber gets really, really interesting though, because we've talked about here fullbacks getting forward, we've talked about fullbacks inverting, and the reality is that with the flexibility you get from Ødegaard being either a high 10 or a number 8 in build-up, with Saka being a touchline winger, or an inside the pockets winger. The fact that you've got that flexibility in all these players makes me think that we may want that flexibility in fullback so we can do different things in one game. And Jurrien Timber may unlock that. So if we bring Jurrien Timber into the team and we move Ben White out, and let me just say, first and foremost, Ben White can do a lot of what I'm about to say Timber can do. I just wonder whether Timber does it to an even higher level, which I feel wrong saying because Ben White's been brilliant in everything he's been asked to do. But let me just pose the question. So here, I can see how a 5'10" Jurrien Timber can do this really, really well. He's slightly more agile than Ben White, especially in tight spaces, and looks like your more old school, marauding fullback than a Ben White, who is still a centre-back / fullback, who just is doing everything he's been asked to do really, really well. So he can overlap a Saka brilliantly. But we also saw out in New Jersey in the pre-season friendly against Man United that at times when the ball came out to Bukayo Saka, he was making that underlap Jurrien Timber to offer something different as more of a penetrative runner in the half space. Ben White can do that. Look at the chance he had against Bayern Munich. He can get into those areas. Think what Pedro Porro has been doing for Tottenham recently. Timber, I think, could add that element, but likewise could give us this. If we get the new left back to slot in a back three build-up, like we've seen at times with Kivior doing that, if we get our wingers high and wide, Rice gets forward alongside Ødegaard, Timber can be the inverted option. You can do that from right back and left back. Now, Timber, for every position and role I've just given him there, I think he can do every single one of those things comfortably, really comfortably. And so does next season's Arsenal actually look like a team with a Jurrien Timber who can just play lots of different roles and give Arsenal so much tactical flexibility in the way they play in one game alone? It's not a case of, we have tactical flexibility in the different players we want to use. One player might be able to unlock 3 or 4 different ways of approaching build-up and approaching the way we attack a team. And it just makes me think, what a miss Jurrien Timber's been, eh? What a miss he has been, because he could have given us so much in so many different ways. And I think you're seeing the way Arsenal have approached different games this season. You can just so see where Jurrien Timber would have fit in so perfectly.
Just interrupting the video to say, because I want to add this. Ben White has done a lot of what I'm saying Jurrien Timber can add to this team, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying he can add in lots of different ways, where Ben White started the season at centre-back, so do the dynamic shift from that perspective. If we get Timber in the team, Timber could do it from left-back. So it doesn't mean that Ben White's not doing it. It doesn't mean that Ben White doesn't have a crucial role to play going forward, because we know how brilliant he is.
And it asks questions of a lot of different other players and a lot of other different players that we are linked with. For example, if we are to get in a new central midfielder, let's move Jorginho. Does this central midfielder have to be a 6/8 hybrid? The reports are saying that's exactly what they're looking at, and it makes sense that Emirates is someone we would look at, because he's played as both that defensive midfielder and as more of a box-to-box, so that we can build up in this shape, so that we can ask them to slot in next to Rice as a 6, so that we can actually get them to bomb forward a little bit more as well and add goals to their game. I feel like this particular part of the pitch, new signing, let's do that again. With the new signing and Declan Rice, they have to be able to alternate and build up together as a double pivot, build up as a one with an inverted fullback, get forward and get goals, and do so many different things, because Arteta might want this tactical flexibility throughout a full 90 minutes. And like I said, there have been plenty of games where we've seen examples of this. West Ham away, the Bayern Munich game, there have been lots of games where you've seen Arsenal build up in different, even Liverpool at home actually, the way Zinchenko was used as an inverted fullback in that game shows you that Arteta wants to adopt different styles. The final thing to talk about is actually what happens to the front line, because if Havertz comes out and we sign an out-and-out striker, if a right winger comes in for depth and pushes Bukayo Saka? Do we see Saka get more minutes out on that left-hand side potentially, where he was playing lots of really good football for Arsenal in his early days as a left-back bombing forward, but also as a left winger who can, provide goals and assists, and a centre forward that maybe can take the load off some of the other players to get goals as well. If I just show you this, you can see that Arsenal's goal scorers in all competitions: Havertz chipping in with 13 goals, Saka with 19 goals, Leandro Trossard with 15 goals, Erdegaard's even got 11, Martinelli, Jesus have chipped in with 8 despite not having very good seasons. And it actually shows you that when you look at the percentage of goals that they have scored for Arsenal in all competitions, no one has cracked more than 20%. So do we get someone that can be that more trusted 20 to 30 goal a season striker who can take the load off a little bit, but also can get the best out of a Martin Ødegaard, who I think is really thriving from a creative perspective as well as an out-and-out number 10. I have always felt that Ødegaard's more of an 8 who has creative qualities, but maybe when you look at what he's been doing with the assists for Trossard against Porto, some of the passes he played against Aston Villa, an assist for Bukayo Saka against West Ham away from home as well, is Ødegaard actually evolving into that real creative hub and actually an out-and-out number 9 like Isak, who's actually played with before at Sociedad, could be exactly what you need to finally get that creative best out of Martin Ødegaard and get that 30 goal a season number 9. I don't know, people. I'm just throwing ideas out at you here. It's been a little bit of a here it is video. Let me just throw everything at you, because all these different things, from the reports to the tactics we played this season to the evolution of certain players to the players we're linked with to the players that are still to return, all this just makes me think Arsenal next season could look so different. And while I'm not wishing time away, because I really want to enjoy what's left of this season, it is fascinating, it is gripping, it's exciting. Next season's Arsenal could just be another level above, and I really hope it is. And I just want to say a really big thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, actually hit the links right here to watch more content like this, including my Football First podcast, which drops every Monday to Friday at 6 AM. And I know it's annoying, I am really sorry to have to ask, but if you want to show support to the channel, hitting the like and subscribe buttons help promote the content much more than you could possibly know. Thanks again.